In my book Falling Sky, chapter titled Contact on page 85 it states the following: it was spring of 1983, a Friday night, and I was off work for the weekend. In that same chapter on page 86 it states, around 3:30 a.m. or thereabouts I found myself being pulled out of a sound sleep by an extremely abnormal event. Being groggy and hearing some sort of sound, I opened my eyes and noticed very strange orange lights twirling around as they reflected off the upper walls of my room. They were rolling and flashing in a spinning pattern similar to the orange flashing turning warning hazard lights from a tow truck light bar. Thinking I must be still asleep and dreaming, I laid there a minute until I realized I was actually awake. I began focusing on the sound that woke me in the first place, which was a high-pitched, whining repetitive noise. It sounded much like the harmonics or chants one would expect at some sort of religious ritual, and was emitting energy noises, like that which would be coming from a power generator in a power plant. The combination was extremely eerie, and it had some sort of drawing effect on me, making me want to get out of bed. Once again in the same chapter on pages 90 through 93 it states, the powerful chanting sounds kept pulling and drawing me closer and closer towards the door. Once at the door, I pulled back 2 slide bolts, untwisted the knob lock, then opened it. After standing there for a moment, examining the orange glowing field, I realized I needed to go out past the gate in order to see it. I walked off the porch, down the steps, through my yard, then opened the gate. Walking through and looking to my right, I discovered the source of what's been drawing me to it. I was facing my opponent, the thing that had been taking control of me and my family. I saw a gigantic, bright, orange ball of light in the shape of an enormous, round sphere, and it was hovering a few feet above the ground. It stretched to the top of the walnut tree, and staring at it brought back memories of the mountain. Realizing what I was looking at, I yelled, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, Ron, look, it's that orange thing from the mountain, it's here." I was standing right behind his window, and obviously he didn't hear me, because when I turned around I froze. Becoming extremely fearful, I watched it hovering in midair while the outer edges of it began spinning like bright orange flames. The noises it made were swirling sounds mimicking that of a nuclear power generator, and it was mixed with repetitive chants. Almost instantly, out of the center of it, something began materializing. I watched as 3 very strange looking beings appeared standing in front of it. They simply appeared right before me, instantaneously coming to life. It was almost as if they came from some sort of craft, or maybe even crossed through a hypergate. 2 of them were thin, short, standing approximately 4½ to 5 feet, appeared to have leathery gray skin, no hair, large head, large dark eyes, 2 arms, 2 hands, long fingers, 2 legs, 2 feet, 4 digits each hand and foot. They were dressed identical in one-piece flight jumpsuits, almost like spandex. Their clothing clung to their slight bodies like a second skin, and there were no visible seams. The material was extremely shiny, bright, and glistened like black satin, and the orange sphere behind them reflected off it. The third one in the middle looked a little different, as it was almost double in height, standing somewhere around 7 to 8 feet, and its clothing was baggier than the others, draping off its body and gathered at the waist. All 3 of them had large craniums and almost equally large black eyes, except for the tall one, which had slightly smaller eyes. I wanted to run, but they wouldn't let me. They were keeping me there with an extremely controlling godly force, which was stopping me in my tracks. I tried turning right, but couldn't. I was unable to move any part of my body, and these beings overshadowed me with total dominion. Out of my peripherals I saw the cottage front door and field gate still open, just waiting for my return, but I was helpless, unable to move. It was absolutely terrifying, very much like a nightmare, with everything in slow motion, and all I could do was watch. I felt my life coming to an end and truly believed I was going to die. I began fainting and blacking out. I felt my knees giving away from beneath. While falling, I suddenly felt my body stop short of the dirt just before unconsciousness. I'd like to shift gears and speak of a more recent event which happened on May 15th, the year of 2019. It was a rainy, stormy night. The storm came by surprise, so I didn't get the chance to retract the awning before the heavy wind. The wind was so heavy that the awning of our coach was literally ready to rip off the side of the unit. I didn't want to go out in the storm and mess with the awning to take it in, so I decided to monitor the storm to see if anything else was blowing around outside by turning on our security cameras. The rain was falling, and while examining the monitor I noticed on camera 1, our driveway camera, what appeared to be 3 beings simply standing in the middle of the road, in front of our fifth wheel, that were staring right at the camera. I could clearly see they weren't human, and they remained in one position and seemed to be standing inside another realm, but were visible to infrared night vision camera. They remained in that position and watched our coach as the winds began to die down, therefore alleviating the wind stress on our awning. They seemed to keep our awning in place by calming the winds. After saving the files, I noticed that they looked very much like the beings in my book in the chapter I mentioned earlier. They were dressed very much like the 3 beings described in 1983, and if you look at the images of the art from my book and the images from my security camera, you'll notice that they actually are the same beings, except this time these beings were captured in a different dimensional realm than the ones in the chapter titled Contact. I also noted that the large being in the picture looks very similar to the one I captured in my old security system back in February 13th of the year 2014. This incident was also written in my book Falling Sky in the chapter titled Security Camera. This time the being appeared in our security camera because one of our neighbors pulled a gun on another neighbor, and our coach with us inside were right in the line of fire. This incident ended without any harm, and once again these guardians seem to be protectors. Their faces are very similar in all the events.